Hi, I'm Brad Smart, and the title of this top grading tips article is The Most Powerful, Effective Coaching Interview. Having surveyed hundreds of thousands of employees, we know that most managers are given mediocre marks as a coach. We've studied why coaching so often fails, and over a period of decades, we've fine-tuned a coaching method that really works. Whether you engage a top grading professional or do the coaching yourself, you can have the confidence that the coaching steps you are about to read actually improve the behaviors and performance of most people. I suggest you save this article and read it next time you're considering coaching for someone. The 13 steps appear complex, but they follow a logical, time-tested pattern, with each adding to the power of the coaching to actually change people for the better. Here's the top grading coaching method in a nutshell, so you don't get lost in those 13 steps. To get the best insights, start by conducting a top grading interview. And you'll have to go to the article and click to read the attached top grading interview guide. Of course, you follow all 13 steps. You have a hard-hitting coaching session toward the end. It motivates the person to create a comprehensive individual development plan. And then there are follow-up sessions to be sure the person being coached is actually implementing the plan, and you measure progress. The measurement is so important. That helps motivate the person to continue working to improve, knowing measurement is going to take place. What's so good about top grading coaching? One, it produces extreme clarity as to the person's strengths and weaker points. The top grading interview is followed by 12 or so 1-hour telephone interviews with bosses, peers, and subordinates. And let's presume here that a top grading professional is doing it, like me. If I were to talk with 12 bosses, peers, and subordinates, I'd get terrific insight that supplements what I learned in the long top grading interview. Okay, number 2 benefit, it provides hard-hitting, accurate, and highly credible feedback to the candidate. In addition to what I just said about the top grading interview plus telephone coworker interviews, there's an email survey, and with survey ratings and verbatim quotes from coworkers and the experience and independent assessment from a top grading professional, the feedback is accepted with an attitude of determination to improve. A third benefit is that it does really turbocharge the person's development, giving the person the very best chance to maximize their strengths and minimize their weaker points. The top grading professional offers suggestions based on what has helped thousands of managers improve. But the manager creates the final individual development plan. The manager reviews progress quarterly to assure that implementation is taking place. So 1, 2, 3, those are the benefits. Attached, and here again you have to go back to the article itself and click to get a top grading coaching report. It's fictitious, but I put it together what we typically do. After all of that data gathering, we sit down with the individual, discuss it, and then send a recommended draft of an individual development plan, and you can read one. So here are the 13 steps. Okay, number 1 is a briefing. The top grading professional, or you, will talk with a manager to be coached to allay any concerns. People to be coached frequently are thrilled to participate, knowing they'll receive candid, thorough career advice and counsel. I personally hear, hey, Brad, you've coached and assessed 6,500 senior executives, and you know what works to help executives improve. So I'd like your best advice. Number 2, top grading online solutions. TOLS, tolls. Information is collected. The manager or executive will complete the top grading career history form that produces the top grading snapshot, which is a 1-page colorful picture of the person's career, and it prints out the top grading interview guide containing the snapshot and all the information the career history form has produced. Okay? And that's what we use. We use the top grading interview guide with all that useful information. Here again, go to the article and you can click to get a sample. Okay? So, with the top grading interview guide all printed out with all that useful information in it, the top grading professional or internal manager will conduct a 5-hour top grading interview using that guide. Step number 4, there are oral so-called 360 interviews conducted on the phone with 10 or 12 bosses, peers, and subordinates of the executive. These coworker interviews begin with general questions such as, what are the person's, this Jones is our hypothetical sample here, what are Jones's strengths, weaker points, and career potentials? Based on insights gleaned during the top grading interview, follow-up questions in the oral 360 interviews enable the top grading professional, or again, you as an internal manager, to more fully understand the executive's strengths, the executive's weaker points, and career potentials. Step number 5 is a survey, an email 360 survey, and we suggest very inexpensive software that permits asking, and here's our preference, only a few questions, no more than 20 questions, so that Saturday morning the respondents aren't saying, I have my whole life to get done here on a weekend and I have to sit here and do this survey of 70 items. No way. 20 questions maximum. And the respondents are asked for written comments for each of the questions. You put that together. So picture top grading interview, all those coworker interviews, and now an email 360 survey to get ratings that can serve as a baseline and help the individual set goals for improvement. Beautiful. Okay? What kind of baselines do we recommend? Well, based on some extensive experience you might have read about in my books, working with GE, we recommend that executives achieve at least a 7 average rating on a 10-point scale on the interpersonal components of leadership. A higher minimum of 9 on a 10-point scale is expected on competencies such as integrity, and how about this, top grading? The respondents should include in the survey mostly A players. Why? Because C players have exactly the wrong values. They do not want to be held accountable. They resent high standards, and they give low ratings to anyone who disrupts their comfortable, poor performing life. Okay. Number 6, an assessment report is sent to the CEO, who usually shares it with the head of human resources, summarizing the top grading professional's conclusions. Conclusions about what? Whether the manager is currently an A, B, or C player, the level, if the candidate's career potential may or may not be reached if he or she is in the current career path, our recommendation for what jobs the executives should have now and in the foreseeable future. And then there's a long list of strengths and weaker points with representative quotes from coworkers. And finally, there's an interpretive career history. Okay, so there's a lot of information sent to the CEO and head of human resources. And essentially, they let us know how hard-hitting and direct they want us to be. And usually they say it's up to you, your judgment. And our preference is to tell the individual the truth and the whole truth. So it's a hard-hitting interview coming up. And step number 7 is the manager receiving feedback, usually a 4-hour session with a top grading professional who shares all the data while respecting confidentiality of coworkers, of course, but more importantly, who shares their professional opinions, insights, and advice. The manager is almost always amazed at the depth of insight and their increased clarity regarding what are their weaker points to be overcome and their strengths to be maximized. Number 8, the top grading professional then sends the person, Jones is our sample coaching report. Go back to the article, please, and do click on that so you can see the sample. And here we have the same conclusions, strengths, weaker points, and developmental suggestions, which are excerpted from the longer assessment report that had gone to the CEO. So it's all out there on the table, and at this point, the individual who's being coached is motivated to improve. So step 9 is the person, Jones in this case, drafts a thorough individual development plan, IDP. Sure, they take what I or another top grading professional has sent them and they tweak it, but they add their own humanity to it. They say not just what they're going to do, but they say why it's so important for them to do it. Okay, so it's their IDP. Okay, so their IDP again says what they're going to do, when, why, and how the results will be measured. Step number 10, the person, Jones in this case, meets with more senior management, perhaps human resources, to get their approval for an IDP. Hey, I've already gotten approval essentially in my original assessment report that went to the CEO. But hey, let's take one last step here. The person, Jones in this case, created an IDP with maybe they added some items or deleted something. Let's get the opinion of the boss and HR. Okay? Step 11, the person, Jones in this case, meets quarterly with the CEO and head of human resources, if it's someone right at the top of the organization, and they review progress on implementing the IDP. Step 12, a follow-up email 360 survey is usually conducted in 6 months and 12 months. Why? To measure progress. Okay, so maybe a person achieved a 5 on a 10-point scale on working effectively with peers, and the goal is at least a 7. Hey, how have they done 6 months later, and then 12 months later? Knowing that they will be measured repeatedly, any A player or someone with A potential will prioritize strengthening their weaker behaviors, maximizing their strengths. And if they're considered too harsh with people or something, they'll treat people with more respect. Or if they need to get better organized, they'll get better organized. Or they need to communicate more clearly or thoroughly or listen better. Hey, it's all being measured. And if after 6 months they show improvement, pat them on the back. Hey, that's cool. If they're falling short, talk about it. Okay? Finally, step 13. Well, and that is what comes next. And what comes next depends. If the person had 3 competencies to improve on, and after 6 months or a year, they've achieved the goals, great. Again, pat them on the back. But if not, maybe some more coaching sessions and more time will be needed. So here's a summary. This step-by-step method for coaching people has been time-tested. Really does give any manager a terrific opportunity to accelerate their growth. Till next time, top grade your team, and you will top grade your profits.